Hello, welcome to Real Estate Appraiser Secrets. I'm Clint Walker, and this week we are going to be answering the most common question that I get asked, which is, does this add value? And you can probably imagine, I'm saying it with a little bit of a smirk because it is the question on everyone's mind anytime we talk to an appraiser. I am on multiple Facebook groups where I am there as the appraiser to answer questions, and most of the people who are not appraisers participating in these groups, these are the things they want to know. It's either that or will this go FHA? One of those two questions is on everybody's mind at all times. But will this add value is the single most common question. As we speak, as I make this video, I have got at least 2 unanswered texts in my on my phone from people asking me that just this morning. And one instance of that question I read yesterday on Facebook and on one of our appraiser Facebook pages. And I thought that one of my fellow appraisers, who I also know works a lot with agents in a different state, he gave a great answer to this question. So more often than not, when you ask an appraiser, does this add value? They are, if they're really trying to give you the only correct answer that they can give you, they would say, well, it depends. Because it always depends. It may seem like a simple question for an agent, but for an appraiser, a million different scenarios about what could be going on with this property run through our mind. And all of these things impact or possibly impact the value. But the question I read yesterday was specifically said, my seller just installed a new septic system. They spent $30,000. Does this add value? Many of the appraisers on the page immediately answered no, it does not add value. Okay? And that's not necessarily a wrong answer, but it is based on it's based on them skipping a couple of steps and assuming that when they pull comparable sales, all of the comparable sales also have working septic systems, and therefore this person putting in a new working septic system only makes them as good as the comps, and therefore no additional value, right? That makes sense if you think about it. But one of my appraiser friends said, yes, of course it adds value. And he said his point was, it adds value, and it must add value, because if your seller did not install a new septic system, if the house had no working septic system, then what would you imagine it would be worth? Far, far less. Maybe far, far less than $30,000, okay? What if this house had no working septic system and you tried to sell it, and the municipality that the house is in said, no, you can't replace that septic system? Or, sure, you can replace that septic system, but you're going to have to jump through, 18 or 24 months of hoops with environmental testing and things like that to replace that septic system. So, really, in my opinion, this appraiser's answer was the most correct answer, because yes, of course it adds value. Having done it, your seller having done it for the buyer definitely adds value. Now, what does that mean for you in pricing the home? It depends. A brand new septic system is not your only consideration for pricing the home. You've got square footage. You've got the condition of the house. If this house needed a new septic system, it's not a new house. And so you've got condition concerns or condition considerations. You've got bedrooms and bathrooms to think about, all sorts of other things to think about on top of the condition of the septic field, okay? So that's a really good example of the complexity that goes into that question at any time. So a lot of times I get asked things like, my seller just they added an additional deck. One of the questions in my text right now is, the sellers added on an additional concrete parking spot on their driveway. They spent $5,000 on it. Does that add value? Well, if they had not added on that parking spot, would anybody care? Is anybody going to drive through this particular subdivision? I don't know anything about the house or the subdivision or where it's at. All I know is this seller added an additional parking spot. So would the absence of it detract from the property's value, and these people having added it therefore fill that gap and add some value back to the property? I don't know. Probably not. I don't think I've ever adjusted for an additional parking spot in an appraisal. I don't think I've ever looked at comps where I saw any reason to. But this is the way that your appraiser approaches these things, is a lot of times it comes down to the question, is the absence of this thing that the person's done detrimental to value? Does adding this thing only make it as good as all the other comps? If that's the case, yes, they have certainly added value, because otherwise they would have lost value. But are they going to feel like they're getting a premium on their property because of the work they've done? Maybe not, because all of the stuff all the money they've pumped into it may only make them just as good as the comps that they're going to be compared to. Okay, so really, what do you do with that? It's really a shift in perspective, right? Because really, what we're talking about here is the perspective that an appraiser looks at a property with. A lot of you, this will be common sense. I talk to a lot of agents who, when they get asked these questions, they don't need to ask me. They immediately just give their seller the hard truth that probably not going to add any money to our listing price. But if your seller has done something that truly makes it a premium property, then in that case, that might align with getting a little premium on the price. Okay, they've got something that's way better. An in-ground pool is a perfect example. You can find lots of properties that have, in a subdivision, if you're pricing something, you could theoretically find a lot of properties that were equivalent to your yard and your square footage and your bedrooms and bath count. And now your property, though, has got an in-ground pool. So it has a site improvement, a big improvement that is above and beyond what everybody else is doing. And so in this situation, we are talking about something that probably adds value. But not necessarily, okay? Nothing's always true. But that's what you're looking for, is something that adds something that your other comps don't necessarily have. So I hope that's helpful, and just sort of giving you a different way to look at these questions that we get asked all the time. I know you as agents get asked all the time. If we can ever be of service to you with a pre-listing appraisal or professional measurement or consultation, you can find us at truepointappraisals.com. And as always, I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next week.